Hi, I'm Ruby Romana, and thank you for tuning in. Thank you for watching this video. Now, this video is a response to the last video that I did, and that video is video number 2 or video number 53, depending on whichever video website that you're watching this current video on, or of course the said video that I've already referred to. Okay, so that video, the question that I posed to the universe was how to cope with Brexit, and that was a timeless reading. So yes, it was how to cope with Brexit. Um, it wasn't so much that you would pick a card, it's more as though the card would pick you, depending on whether you would be in the Remain camp, or the Unsure camp, or the Brexit camp. But I kept thinking about this reading and I tried to break it down as best as I could. But after the reading, it just felt to me that it really just didn't make any sense. And because I have, an ever inquiring mind, let's just say, I kept dwelling upon this and I'm thinking, or I've come to the conclusion that perhaps we were getting some kind of, I don't know, some kind of glitch in the matrix, let's just say. Or perhaps it's kind of like I thought of a cryptic mirror. So perhaps the cards that came up, even though they seemed a bit muddled and jumbled and a little bit topsy-turvy, upside down, inside out, all of that kind of thing, okay, perhaps the universe was just giving us kind of perhaps the universe was showing us or echoing or mirroring to us, reflecting to us the present state of Brexit. So perhaps the cards weren't necessarily answering the actual question, which was how to cope with Brexit. But perhaps I've thought and thought about it, so I've come up with this. Perhaps the cards were more reflecting Brexit resolved. So because wouldn't it be nice if there was a resolution to Brexit? So let's put that there. Okay, let me just move a few things on my little, I've tried to arrange things as best as I can. So, okay, so let's look at these cards now as Brexit being resolved. Okay, look at the cards, and we've got Remain, we've got Liberation, we've got Unsure, people that are in the Unsure camp as the warrior, and we've also got obviously Brexit being the wheel. But again, I still don't feel that these cards make that much sense. So okay, so how about it if I rearranged these tabs here to reflect perhaps how Brexit might pan out over the course of the next few weeks, months, years. No wonder I'm going to have to call this a timeless reading. But okay, so let me rearrange this. So let's say that Remain becomes the wheel. Let's say that Brexit becomes the warrior. And let's also say that Unsure becomes Liberation. Now, how's about that, people? Right, okay then. So, perhaps when Brexit does actually resolve itself, perhaps that this is where the card would fall for all of those of you who have been unsure about Brexit, who haven't really had any kind of deep conviction about Brexit either way, where your passion doesn't particularly run deep and you don't really mind the outcome of the referendum and its implementation. You just you just want it to get over and done with. But perhaps when Brexit is resolved, okay, perhaps that's kind of where the card will land for all of you people that are unsure, because we've got liberation, that's freedom. Okay, you won't have necessarily freedom of movement, but you will have you'll feel free. You'll feel as though a weight has been lifted off your back. You'll feel calm. You'll feel like you don't have to either take a side with either the Brexiteers or the Remainers. You'll just feel like that you can just move on with things. And so therefore, oh, thank goodness that we're now free of Brexit, and thank goodness that the United Kingdom has now come back together and it's restored its political and sociological, let's just say, sanity. So that's kind of could be the cryptic mirror of how Brexit might look when all the problems are resolved, which might take obviously a long time. Okay, so let's go to the middle card here. So now we've got the warrior pertaining to Brexit or to the Brexiteers. Okay, so this could be that the outcome might just be that you've fought a hard earned and a hard won battle. So because we've got the warrior, what does the warrior do? The warrior is defensive. The warrior does battle. The warrior goes to war. But let's remember that we're not at war. And I think that it's very important that Brexiteers, that we get out of that mindset, let's just say, of invoking the Second World War, because the Second World War ended in 1945, and it does no good to go back to that or to revert to that kind of, the language of the Second World War or that kind of mentality, because we are in the 21st century. So let's not think about war, but a Brexiteer is defending their point of view. They're defending the outcome of the referendum, which, even though it was narrow, it was nevertheless in the Brexit camp. It was actually, the majority of the public did by a narrow margin vote for the United Kingdom to exit the EU. So, a Brexiteer cuts through all of this rubbish. You've got to, cut through all of this crap, and perhaps once Brexit is resolved, okay, that you'll just feel, phew, thank goodness we fought for our rights, we're fighting for our rights, we fought for our rights, and therefore this is the end result of Brexit. So in the meantime, if the warrior was pertaining to Brexit, that perhaps it's also very important to guard against negativity, because it's very easy when we're not getting our own way, or when we feel like an injustice has been done, to kind of to kind of feel very negative, to feel very confrontational. But let's just remember to guard against that for the time being. But once we have a resolution to Brexit, then that's perhaps how you're going to just feel. You're going to feel like, phew, you've cut through the air, you've cut through all of this all this yucky stuff that's going on with Brexit at the minute, with the deep states trying to undermine the results of Brexit, that kind of thing. So once the Brexit's resolved, let's hope that you just feel like a warrior that's won a hard-earned rest. Okay. So Remain. So as you can see, Remain now moves over to the wheel position. Okay, so what's the wheel about? The wheel, it keeps turning. The wheel keeps turning. It keeps going round and round, doesn't it? Round and round and round. And I think that's kind of a good assessment of the EU, because let's remember that the EU isn't a fundamental evil. It's not malevolent. It's just that I think that the EU, in trying to actually safeguard the interests of Europe, and to keep Europe, protect Europe from the perils of war and disagreements with neighbouring countries. Okay, that I think that the trouble is that the EU is kind of like almost acting against itself, because even though that there are fundamental principles of the EU are sound and safe, the thing that isn't sound and safe is the diminishing of democracy, because it's hard enough, isn't it, folks? It's hard enough for the normal everyday man and woman like yourself and like myself, to kind of have any kind of political say-so. So, and that's why democracy is so important. So like I'm saying, that the EU in itself is actually a good thing, and I'd like to still see the EU thrive once the UK does actually I don't know, once the UK has actually made sure that we do leave, and once the UK has actually respected the referendum result, and therefore we have actually, left the European Union. But for the EU, the wheel, for me, I kind of feel like the wheel, it goes round and round, the wheel keeps turning, the EU is going to keep thriving and surviving with, without the UK, which is absolutely a good thing. It's going to keep going round and round. We've got movement, there's still going to be freedom of movement. What goes around comes around in a karmic way, but in a nice karmic way, because perhaps the wheel of karma for the EU is perhaps a lesson that the EU needs to learn, which is that the EU needs to make all of its institutions democratic, and then they won't have to go through any of this rigmarole with any of the other countries that are in the EU. So that's kind of where perhaps things will be, or how things will look once Brexit is resolved. So, okay, right. So let's rearrange the tabs at the top again. Right, so let me just think carefully about this. So what if Remain was the warrior? So let's just say Remain is going to be the warrior. So let's move this tab here. And let's just say that Unsure becomes the wheel. And let's just say that Brexit becomes liberation. Ooh, well, I think perhaps the matrix is running more smoothly now, folks. What do you think? Okay, so let's go through it this way with the cards this way round. You know, the cards make more sense this way round than perhaps even the second way round or the original way round. Right, okay, so let's start from Unsure. Let's go backwards this time. So it's all a little bit higgledy-piggledy still, isn't it? But okay, so we've got Unsure. Right. So if Unsure was the wheel, if you've been unsure about Brexit all this time and Remain, you haven't really felt any kind of strong passions or any strong feelings either way, then perhaps for you, if the outcome of once Brexit is resolved and these cards came up in this order, then perhaps it would mean that, the wheel keeps turning, the UK is going to keep thriving and surviving. Basically, the UK will pick up with its productivity. We can stand alone, because sometimes a wheel can even be kind of like a journey. It can be standing alone. And I think perhaps the UK really is on a journey now, isn't it? Because, some other countries might think the UK is acting very badly at the moment. But I just think the UK just needs to find its balance, its equilibrium, and the wheel can maybe help that. And if you're unsure, literally, the wheel can be just represent again the wheel of karma, and also it can also represent a concept actually that I came across yesterday when I was watching the TV, and it's this concept called losers consent, and it's basically means that in a referendum or any kind of vote, that you can only really instigate the outcome of any kind of vote or result of a vote if the loser actually consents to the winner actually having the outcome in their favour, let's just say. So, but also obviously losers' consent would actually obviously and more obviously pertain to the Remain side. So they need to kind of cut those kind of ties where they're not actually giving losers consent at the moment. So yes, so we've got the wheel unsure. So if you're in the unsure camp, and once Brexit is resolved, then you're just going to kind of feel like you can move on. You don't have to worry about taking any sides. And like I said, the wheel's going to keep turning. The world's going to continue to spin on its axis, and axis. I can't even speak now properly. And and it's a new journey, and we can stand alone, kind of thing. Or round and round. You can just see it as countries have cycles where order out of chaos, chaos out of order, kind of thing. And once Brexit is resolved, it's going to swing back again, or the wheel's going to turn back round again, and there's going to be order is going to come back out of chaos. So isn't that a nice sentiment, and a nice kind of outcome for the unsure camp? So now, now we've got Remain. Let me use my wand. Right, so we've got Remain here. So once Brexit is resolved, the Remainers are perhaps going to actually feel as though, that they can. What's the warrior doing? He's got his sword there, and perhaps he could just put his sword in the ground. He doesn't need to kind of hold his sword up and, swish it around and do all of that, swashbuckling stuff. Perhaps he can just put the sword in the ground and just say, I give consent. I give loser's consent. So the sword is back in the ground and the warrior walks away. Because, obviously the sword is about doing battle, it's about cutting through things, fighting for your rights. But at the end of the day, the sword can also be about putting the sword back in the ground and knowing when to walk away, knowing when to give loser's consent. And actually, don't you think that would be, quite a burden lifted off? A Remainers back, let's just say. So once Brexit is resolved, perhaps that's kind of how the Remainers going to feel. They're going to feel glad that they've fought, their battle, their version of their Brexit battle. But at the end of the day, once Brexit is resolved, the Remainers will obviously have to give their loser's consent. So the warrior is the loser, but sometimes to lose is to win. Because sometimes to lose is to walk away, isn't it? It's to put the sword in the ground, to walk away. And that's kind of, I think, how this could actually be a cryptic mirror of a glimpse of how things are going to look once Brexit is resolved. So there you go. That's for the Remainers. Right. Da, 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 Brexit. Liberation. Now, come on, liberation. Liberation in its essence is literally freedom, isn't it? It's liberty. It's being able to walk away from a situation. It's being able to run away from a situation. It's being able to, gallop away. We've got the horse here, as you can see, riding away into the distance. He's been, the drawbridge has been lifted up, and the rider and horse can now just ride off into the sunset. Now, I know this all sounds a little bit balmy, and people will, a lot of people think that Brexiteers are living on cloud nine, etc. But I don't think so. I think at the end of the day, that Brexit is Brexit will be resolved eventually. It's just crossed my mind. You know what? Perhaps I'm actually doing. Such is the irony. Perhaps I am actually doing the same thing that the Remainers are doing. So, the Remainers didn't really get the Remainer MPs didn't actually get the result that they wanted. So therefore, they're trying to turn the outcome of the referendum result around, aren't they? They're trying to kind of thwart Brexit. They're trying to frustrate Brexit. Maybe that's what I'm doing. Maybe I didn't get the cards that I wanted to come up. The cards didn't come up in the perfect order or the perfect synchronicity, did they? So perhaps that's why I've rearranged the cards. Oh, well, naughty me. Okay, then. Thank you, folks. Now, please tell me what you think. Leave your comments, in the description, or what am I talking about in the description? Leave your comments in the comment section. Please like, please subscribe. Just tell me how what you think, etc. So, thank you so much for watching this video. And remember, you can always have a reading with me at rubyromana.com. Positive vibes, and bye for now.